Hello, welcome. My name's Gary. I'm from Kids Industries, and thank you for coming. We're going to talk about family fandom, and today, says as he clicks through the slides, there's 5 things that we're going to look through today. 4, actually. We're going to do 20 minutes on family fandom. We're going to have 10 minutes of questions. You're a very mixed bunch. We've got people from hospitality, from toys, we've got people from sports, all sorts of different places, and you've all sent lots of really brilliant questions, and we've only got 20 minutes, so I can't answer them all, so I'm going to try my best. So what I put together for you is something I hope will give you all at least one thing that you didn't know when you came. Now here's the spoiler. Family fandoms are really important. That's it. You can sign off now. You can go now. That's it. That's the end of. Please don't go. Right. What is fandom? Well, fandom as a definition is this. It's a community or subculture composed of enthusiastic and passionate fans who share a common interest related to it and care about its future. That's the definition. You know, there was a time when fandom was only synonymous with football. And this is really where we see the birth of family fandom. And up until then, fandoms had not really been overly familial. And, you know, the mythical tomes of Rome, Greece, Egypt, where scholars say the first fans emerged, well, that's kind of very different, isn't it? But then you had those ancient games, didn't you, where specific chariot racers or gladiators apparently had their own fans. And then fast forward a few millennia, and modern fandom really only came to being with the advent of those serialised novels by Conan Doyle and Dickens. But it was science fiction in the 60s, with Star Trek, which really made fandom a thing. And my dad was a Trekkie, I'm not embarrassed to say, and I kind of became one too. So I really do feel an affinity with this. And over time, fandom has become far more part of our embedded culture. And if you look at this Google Trends chart, so, you know, bubbling along there as it had been for many years before, through 2004, 10, 16, and you see this spike. Lovely spike, fandom spike, COVID spike, everything had a COVID spike, didn't it? And then we get a general upward trend. And I think that's really where people started, you know, really getting into comics and buying bobbleheads, and they thought the end of the world was there, so they had to spend their money on stuff. But fandom itself has definitely been growing. And in the studies that we do, and we've been studying fandom now for 7 or 8 years, very specifically, with big studies each year, and the last 3 years, from 2023, of young people 6 to 13, 61% said they had a fandom. In 2024, that was at 73%. And this year, where we really changed things up a little bit, our 2.0 study, it became 88% of children 6 to 13 saying they had a fandom. So why is it important for you? Why is it important for brands? Well, you know, that greater frequency, 75% of people engage with as many touch points as possible. And you get this depth of engagement, and 72% of the respondents to the 2025 study said they badge or wear things to show off this fandom. There's, of course, the greater commercial return, 77% own products or that are related to their fandom, and then you get advocacy. And this is quite an interesting number. 45% say they attend in-person events, and that's probably why the LBE thing, and particularly in licensing, continues to grow. Now that's for the brands, and that's fine, but actually what we're talking about are the fans. So for them, what's it all about? Well, socialization, and we're going to talk a lot about socialization today. That's super important. 82% share their fandom with friends. They get greater belonging. 59% say fandom helps them define who they are. And then we get these opportunities for self-expression. 52% create fan art. 52%. I don't know whether that's all published or whether it's just in the privacy of their own notebook, but nonetheless, 52%. And then we get these emotional experiences, don't we? 70% feel personal pride or celebrate in fandom wins. If your football team wins, you feel great. It's very simple. So if we look now at why fandom is important and try and define that, it's because it's a two-way street. Fandom's a dialogue. It's as prevalent and important now because we need them now more than ever to make our brands work, don't we? Audiences are fragmented. So we built our fandom model, and I'm going to share it with you very briefly, and you can go and take it away and use it from this afternoon, and hopefully you'll find it very useful. But it will get you a lot closer to how to really deconstruct what a fandom is for you specifically. This is the model. There's one of those newfangled QR codes on there that you can use your phone to snap a shot of, and then you can download it. It's super helpful. The fandom model of its heart, it's a lens, it's a tool that helps us break down fandom into individual component parts. So by approaching fandom in this way, you can better understand where fandom needs are being met, or perhaps where there's opportunities for growth, and therefore how to make your individual fandoms for your brands and businesses stronger. It's broken down into 3 distinct areas, each with a radiating spike that represents the degree to which that particular facet is being fulfilled. I'm going to take it very, very quickly. The first is interaction moments. How fans are able to interact with a brand. Can they actively participate with your brand in a way that suits them? What emotions does your brand elicit? Is it funny? Is it exciting? Is it escapist? Whatever. This is all about those transactional mechanics on any level, where fans engage with a brand engage with the fans, or the fans engage with other fans. Yeah, there's a lot going on with that. So have a read and you'll get a good understanding. The second element is self-definition. And throughout our lives, we continually grow and shape our understanding of who we are and what our role is in the world around us. And as young children, we are simply striving to make sense of who we are as individuals. As we grow, we want to know how we fit into our peer groups. And then as a teen, where we belong in society as a whole. And self-definition is a facet of personal development. It's concerned with who you see and describe yourself as at a particular point in time, or in the context of fandom, how you use a brand to define who you are. Whether that's an avid, Manchester United fan, for you, or that maybe somebody, that's won 50 solo wins at Fortnite Battle Royale. That's self-definition. But the one I really want to talk about as far as family fandom goes is the third part of it, the blue part of it, social amplification. Social fandoms often lead to stronger emotional connections. That's common sense. In many ways, this is the most important element of the fandom model. And we're not talking about social media. I want to be really clear about that. We're not talking about social media. We're talking about socialization, the act of socializing with somebody and somebody socializing with you in whatever channel, in whatever form. And this is because the ways in which we consume content today, it's impacting quite drastically how we share those water cooler moments that we used to have. We don't have those anymore. And so, without that ability to connect around a brand, the relationships that we develop for them don't develop quite as well. And, the acquisition of fandom has become far more important than ever because the levels of noise. You may be aware of these stats. There's 5.5 million, take that in, 5.5 million live active experiences on Roblox, on top of the 55 million that are there anyway. There's 500 hours of video uploaded to YouTube every minute. There's 3.2 paid for streaming services in our homes. I don't quite know what the 0.2 looks like, but that's a statistic for you. And there's 34 million videos uploaded to TikTok each and every day. All of this means that fandom for your brand is becoming less likely to develop. And I love this quote from one of the parents that we spoke to in the US, where she said, "There are too many content creators out nowadays. It's easy to lose interest and not be a dedicated fan." And if we think about this and look at the numbers, if parents do not moderate their child's content, if they're not engaged with their child's selection of content, and those kids will be freewheeling across the internet, snacking on nonsense for hours on end and not having the opportunity to really connect with characters or narrative, then actually 49% have a fandom if parents are not engaged. But if parents do moderate their child's content, 70% have a fandom. So that's interesting. There's something going on there. And one of the reasons why this happens is because, of course, the most important people in a child's life are their parents. And parents are potentially the most valuable audience for social amplification. Yes, teens pull away. And yes, I'm a middle-aged bloke and I've got a teenage son. And I did have a very fizzy nose when I watched the John Lewis ads. It happens. But I still love him. He still loves me. We're there together. It's a lovely quote here from a woman of a mother of a 9-year-old daughter. If she wasn't a Chelsea fan, she couldn't live in this house. She didn't mean it. What she did say was she thinks it's good. It's a good way to connect, and she likes to pass that on, the fact that it lives on. Fandom is becoming part of family legacy. It's significant, it's important, it's in their DNA, it's in their shared lived experience. It's much more anchored than transient. Brand owners know this. You know, everyone from sports teams and the governing bodies of those sports to entertainment brands, everybody's at it. Because as a species, we want more time together in this increasingly disconnected world. And we've seen it in the movie theatres, haven't we? The rise of intergenerational content. Lots and lots more IP. Maybe it's looking back to nostalgia. Maybe there's a remake of an old movie. Maybe there's a sequel, whatever it might be, but ways that we can bring families together around big stories. And no presentation of this type is going to be complete without a mention of the B words. I'm sorry to have to do it, but I'm going to do it. There it is, the B word, the bluey word. It's not written for children. It's just not. And I know that there's some of the BBC team on this webinar, and we can talk about it afterwards if you like, but it's not. When Joe Brum wrote the show, he wrote as a father. And that is what we experience when we watch as parents. The children see their world reflected and love the show because it is a family. In some ways, sometimes like theirs, but not always, but very often. It's more like our world, isn't it? It's more like the parents' world. It's not toyetic either. It's not toyetic at all. But the depth of emotional engagement and the levels of identification mean that when little Johnny or Jenny pester for Bluey product, mum or dad or gran, they just melt. It's all about that shared social experience. So look, back to social amplification quickly. There are three elements. We've got family, we've got friends, we've got community. And if fandom is inherently social, as I think I'm getting across to you, then it follows that brand owners, we must really engage these three groups. Obviously today we're focused on family. And socialisation is that core component of how fandoms come to life. 93% of children's fandoms are also held by someone else in their lives. 38% of the children say that parents share it, friends share it at 54%, wider community at 33%, and some on their own at 7%. And families tend to meet in the middle as a result of this. The fandoms come together, their experiences come together in the middle. 71% say that parent-child fandom moments are quite often intergenerational, an experience that's shared for everybody. So moments designed for everyone are foundational, increasingly foundational for a fandom success. And we know, don't we, that parents are looking for more opportunities to bond with their children. Those of you that are parents will know this. Those of you that, you know, have maybe nieces, nephews, cousins, whatever, children, you will see this within your families, that time poor parenting is a thing we want to get closer. And this is increasing with millennial and Gen Z parents. 60% of parents agree they don't spend enough time with their child. So here's an opportunity right there. There's an opportunity. How do we build that connection? And we often see parents coming down to the level of the child. 38% of children share a fandom with their parent, but 84% share fandom moments with a parent. There's little moments of loveliness where, I don't know, there's an interaction around a show, there's a playing with a toy, there's a, I don't know, outside and imagining and being a character, whatever it might be, those little slices of life, which maybe aren't something that's continued everywhere else, but in that moment, the parent and the child are together. That's got huge value, massive value. And there's a lovely quote here. I'm going to have to lean in a little bit, excuse me, to read it properly. It says, "I like to watch whatever she watches so she won't leave the TV room." That's not true of her, though. She isn't interested in anything I want to show her. That's a parent of an 11-year-old in Brazil. So there's an opportunity to bring them closer together. Because family actually are key for discovery. They're the key discovery points for children. In the UK and the US, 36% and 46% of fandoms are discovered as a family versus 32% in India, 14% in South Korea. And when we look at self-discovery, 32% UK, 31% US, India 45%, rising quite quickly, but massively in South Korea, at 43%. Why is that happening? It may be something to do with the kidult movement that we're experiencing here, but it's also got a lot to do with the turnover of content and brands in the East. But the introductions work vice versa too. Kids are often the ones that are showing content and experiences to parents once they discover a fandom. Only 23% say that it's always the child introducing, 29% say it's mostly the child introducing, and this is the interesting one for me and probably the most important one to take away. 37% say it's 50-50, it's balanced. 10% mostly parent introducing, and 1%, there's always one, isn't there? Always parent introducing. I wonder who that person is. I wouldn't like to be in their family. So parents have an important and lasting role, particularly in fandom discovery. And we think about how this breaks down by age. I think it's quite interesting as well. 4 to 7, so that's at 64%, declining to 43% at 8 to 11, and then declining just a little bit further, 12 to 15 at 40%. Now that 40%, I was a little bit surprised by that. I think that might be music. I think that might be all around the sort of sharing and acquisition of musical taste. But what does that actually look like? Why does that change? Why does it decrease with age? Well, look, this is what happens. When we're born, we have no agency at all, do we? We have nothing. We're just there. And our parents have everything. They make all the decisions for us. And as we get older, so our agency increases and we start to make our own decisions, and actually our parents' agency starts to decrease. And again, those of you that are parents, you will be feeling this. And that apex there, that's right about 7 years of age where things shift. So that's important to understand, because that's the pivot at which you can really get a fandom going for the whole family. Just before that 7 mark, leading up to 9, you can really lock the whole family in. So, social amplification lands these lovely, lovely brand equity drivers: discovery, conversion, engagement, affinity, all of these metrics that I'm sure you're very familiar with that we use to measure and carry on a brand's success. There's a lovely quote here. She says, "I like that it shows them a use to use their creativity and imagination, and to be more active in life in general, whether online or in person, and to share with the family or friends." You probably guess what she's talking about. She's talking about Minecraft. So the parent is seeing this go on. They're understanding what the child's doing. They're choosing to engage with the child in it. Now, let's think about those 3 elements of social amplification: community, friends, family, and the 5 aspects of brand equity that it can deliver. So discovery, conversion, engagement, affinity, longevity. Only 3 of those hit by a wider community. You don't discover something if you're already in the community. You've already discovered it. You don't need converting because you're already converted. But for friends, well, you might discover through them. They might help you convert. They will engage with you and they will develop your affinity. But actually, friends move away. Friends are transient. So not necessarily longevity. But family, well, that's different. Family's important. Family does discovery, conversion, engagement, affinity, and longevity. This is why it's important. It drives discovery. 20% of fandoms of children over 5 are driven by family discovery. 13% self-discovery, friend discovery, 12% family. The D word, discovery, super important. The children told us that socialisation is very important to the future of their fandoms. They had 13 different options to choose from here, and they actually took the top 5, 3 of them revolve around socialisation. They wanted to play and have fun, they wanted to share with their friends, but actually, 5th most important thing of the 13 they had to choose from for the future fandoms that they get engaged with is to share with their family. And that's all children from 5 through to 14 of the sample that we spoke with. Now, I realise I'm speaking really, really fast, so I promise to do this in 20 minutes and we're nearly there. So, in summary, first thing, family fandoms bring generations together. Second thing, family fandoms deliver greater discovery of the fandom. Third thing, family fandoms deliver higher affinity. 3 simple things to take away and understand why family fandoms are so important. But what can you do? This is the important bit, isn't it, I suppose. First of all, you can use that fandom model. It's there for you. Take it away. There's good stuff in there. Happy days. Secondly, you need to know how your brand connects with the parents, even if it's for the children. Really understand what they think of it, properly understand what they think of it, and build those moments in for them. So create elements for everybody so they can connect, they can find common ground in which to share the fandom of your brand. Give them what we need, give them tools. It might be printouts, it might be specific toys, it might be books, don't know, but give them what they need in order to share with their friends, with their community, and with, most importantly, their family. And finally, slightly counterintuitive, but kind of the exception that proves the rule. Yes, focus on family, but don't forget everybody else, because actually a fandom has to live across each of those three areas of social implication of family, friends, and community. And that's the end of my 20 minutes. I did that in 21 minutes, so that's not bad, is it? If anybody has any questions, I am happy to answer them. I may not be able to, and if I can't, I will write you an answer afterwards. There's one here, I don't know if you can see this, if you look in the Q&A bit, there's one here that says, do you think parent-child co-viewing converts to purchase? Yes, I do. That's the answer to that one. No, it does. Of course it does. Because if a parent and a child are watching together, the parent is going to understand far more deeply what it is about that particular viewing experience which engages their child, and therefore they're going to imbue that item with more value and probably, it sounds terrible, but probably pay more money for it. What is a good, interesting example that you have, this is going to be a difficult one, isn't it? What is a good, interesting example that you have seen recently of brands fueling family fandom? Oh my goodness, well, the one that I would go to straight away, of course, is Bluey. And that's a cop-out, isn't it, really? But as I described, you know, when Joe, do you know the thing about that show that I just love? I listened to a sound podcast. It was about sound technology, and they had Joe Brum's brother, whose name escapes me. He's the sound designer. Do you know what he does? He goes out into Brisbane and he records the actual noises in Brisbane to put into the show. And just knowing that made me love that even more. And so you know, the depth at which care is given to that particular show to connect with a wider audience is what makes it special, is my answer to that question. What do you think does, I can't read, what do you think does family fandom really, who do you think, that's where I was going wrong, who do you think does family fandom really well, outside of Bluey and Pokemon and Usual Suspects? That's too easy. Good question, yeah. Who does it really well? Who does family fandom really well? I tell you who does family fandom really well, the ECB, the English Cricket Board. They've really understood how fans and families need to interact with what is ostensibly a very complicated and boring sport. And they've made it really exciting. They've made the 20, they've made kids programs, they've glamorized elements of it, which will be really difficult to glamorize, but they've really pulled all the component parts of that game together and made it accessible for the wider family. So yeah, I bet you didn't expect me to say that. Any more questions? What kinds of experiences should a brand create for families to bond over and share and push family fandom even further? What kinds of experiences? If we're talking about physical experiences, those which are immersive or you know, what we would call location-based entertainment, those are going to be the most powerful. But of course, those things are expensive and they're kind of prohibitive and difficult actually to make happen. And very often, you know, the numbers won't add up. So if you can do something like that and there's the desire, great. But I'm reminded of the wonderful stuff that Magic Light does. What Magic Light does, and they're the creators of the Gruffalo and Room on a Broom and all of those sort of wonderful things from Julia Donaldson. What they have done so well, for the Gruffalo particularly, is create trails and very simple things that really lo-fi, immersive, because you're working with little kids that are, you know, the world is their oyster, their imaginations are run wild. So walking through a woodland trail and you come across a Gruffalo, and there's a little QR code and you can open up things or a bit of AR or whatever, you know, wonderful. So really the answer to that question will be, if you can, anything immersive. I don't think this is about digitization. In fact, I know this isn't about digitization, because we know parents are pushing away from screens. We know children actually benefit far more in terms of retention, understanding, comprehension, all of those sort of things if they're doing stuff. So I would try and do, if you possibly could, something experiential. Right, if there aren't any more questions, I'm going to finish that there. I think we will send you a copy of this when it comes up from the cloud and goes into the servers and does whatever it does, along with the deck. And that's it. Thank you for coming. I know it's sort of lunchtime and it's very kind of you to spend 25 minutes with me. So have a lovely day. Thank you for coming. Take care. Bye-bye.